This person that's when I was a kid, my martial arts instructor told me this. That I'll never forget. And I say it all the time. Martial arts are a vehicle for developing the human potential. That difficult thing, you will learn how to be better at everything. 100%. That's what I think life is about, and that's why martial arts are so exciting to me. People think, "Oh, you like violence, like this." Like that's not it. That's why I don't like slap fighting. I think it's stupid. You stand in front of each other, smack each other in the head. I want to see a guy enter into a cage fully prepared with skills against another guy fully prepared with skills. I always describe martial arts, mixed martial arts in particular, as problem solving with dire physical consequences. That's what it is. It's a problem solving with dire physical consequences. That's so cool. Yeah, that's what it is. People, most of them, they didn't understand what's behind a fighting game. It's not like only violence. You have to prepare yourself. You have to be smart. You have to work smarter than the other guy you're going to face. And it's that it's going to play out that day. It's so much sacrifice that you have to make before getting inside that octagon. It's not only fighting. It's more than that. I don't know. I don't know that. I used to see fighting something very violent in Spain. They hate it. Right now, it's becoming bigger and bigger and bigger, and they're starting to love it. And I saw that since the day it started. I used to say to people like 10 years ago in Spain, "What you doing?" "I'm fighting." "Ah, don't do that. Start learning something. Start studying." I'm like, "I'm studying." We are in these lives. Someone wants to be a doctor, someone wants to be a constructor, and someone wants to be this or that. I want to be a fighter. Yeah. And I have to learn to be a fighter also. But by your example, by being a true champion and by living the way you live and by performing the way you perform, you will change people. See it and they'll say, "Oh, this is different. This is not what I thought it was. This is something special." Yeah, so for sure, for sure. It's in the cards. Listen, my friend, thank you very much for your time. And I can't wait to see you inside the octagon as well. And all the best. Thank you very much, brother. It's love. It's love. Kind of enormous. Well, it's where you go. Well, it's also like wrestling. It's like the culture, the pro wrestling culture. The culture is like you're gonna get battered, like, get battered each other. It's just what more so in the past. Those guys really got fucked up. I've had a bunch of those guys in here and telling me stories. Hulk Hogan, freaking Jake the Snake. All these guys are animals. Undertaker. And they all drank six packs after the show. Everyone was snorting coke. Going from town to town, beating the fuck out of each other. How much better do you think uh, anabolic steroids are than testosterone? As far as like putting weight on and like completely cheated. Have you ever done an anabolic steroid? Nothing serious. I've never done anything serious. I tried Anabol once, and I've done like some minor stuff. There was some stuff that I got that you used to be able to buy at the store. You used to be able to buy it from GNC, like a vitamin store, and really? They eventually pulled it off the market. I forget what it was called. But it was pills. Holy shit, did this work? It was like legit steroids that you could buy at GNC. When I was in college, you could buy GHB at GNC. That's crazy. Yeah, because you would take a little capful before you went to sleep, and it would burn while you slept. Well, apparently, I was reading about this conspiracy about GHB and about how safe GHB is in small, how good it is for you, the sleep and recovery. But the problem is people would dump it in people's drinks, and then it was like a date rape drug.
Yeah.
Because you just get, if you have a lot of it, you're like out of it. You don't know what the fuck is going on. And so that's became the date rape drug, and then it just got pulled from the market, or it was very difficult to get. But yeah, I remember during those days when it was out, like bodybuilders would always talk about it. They were all taking GHB before they go to sleep, and it like has some. Like Google what the conspiracy is about GHB, but it has some profound effects on recovery. Like puts you in deep sleep, and apparently at the right doses, it's very safe. Yeah, this doctor is explaining what had led to it being demonized and like what the actual benefits of GHB are.
Yeah, I remember taking it in college.
You took it?
Oh, the first time I ever took it was on a rock in Greece, in the middle of the ocean. A rock in the middle of the ocean.
You're the problem.
Yeah,
People like you.
buddy, it was fun as shit. But guy's like, hey, mate, a little liquid ecstasy. And I was like, sure.
Liquid
That's
ecstasy.
what he called it. I know. Later it was GHB, but he had like a little dropper, a capful. We all took a sip, and suddenly you start blowing up a little bit. Used to do that, and there were like the store pills that you get. You took enough of those, you fucking feel.
Do you remember they used to sell salvia? This is like butcher. Or they sell bombs.
Yeah.
Salvia was like a super potent psychedelic.
Oh, I still have nightmares of Ari's salvia trip.
Oh my God. We played it on the podcast for him and he explained it to us that he had a whole life under the sea. He had a whole relationship under the I think he went to another dimension. That's what I think. He said he was there for months. Had a whole life. GHB's mechanism of action has not been elucidated. It crosses the blood-brain barrier where it interferes with dopamine levels in a complex, dose-dependent way. GHB's relief of the symptoms of narcolepsy is believed to be mediated via these dopaminergic effects. GHB facilitates deep, slow-wave sleep during which growth hormone release naturally increases. This may explain why higher levels of growth hormone have been detected after GHB administration. Yeah, that's why the bodybuilders would take it. There's a lot. Well, this was on the podcast and he was explaining how making steroids illegal when they did that, they've stopped all the research and development that could have made those things very safe. So because they stopped doing any studies on them and they made them a banned substance, then everyone's just reliant upon the ones that are already in existence and no new ones that they've developed. So all the steroids that people are taking are all steroids that have been developed a long, long time ago. And he said it stifled the innovation and the ability to make better, safer ones. That, the problem is the idea of cheating in athletics, right? And it is a real problem. If someone is taking steroids, they have an advantage over people who don't take steroids. But if they could figure out a way to make them safe where they didn't completely fuck up your endocrine system, there should be an argument where if it doesn't have a detrimental effect on you, then athletes should take it.
Yeah.
But people don't like that idea because they don't want someone to have some massive advantage in any sort of sport.
It also goes into like society, the demonizing of anyone on semaglutide.
Yeah.
People get shit on, like I joke that Tom's on, Ozempic all the time. I think he is, but
Do you think he is?
oh, fuck yeah.
Really?
When have we known Tom to put in the hard work to lose the weight?
But he's been really disciplined.
Where is he going?
Yeah, but not really. He'll do it and not tell you.
His wife was on it. She got sick on it.
So did Brian Simpson. Brian Simpson got real sick.
So did Bobby Lee. You see Bobby Lee grew up on a video. It's fucking hysterical.
Yeah, folks, just carnivore diet. Just
Carnivore diet.
eating eggs and you'll lose weight. I guarantee you will. You'll feel great too.
But it is crazy how this is when he was on Ozempic and they were trying to shoot a promo. He kept going, saying, I don't feel good. And he's like, shut up, Bobby, let's just get it.
So does he actually puke? All right, Christ, let's wrap this bitch up.
Yeah.
I love you to death. You're the best.
Hey,
Looking forward to hanging out with you right here. Read about sauna is that sauna use, especially like directly after cardio, imparts like a microdose EPO effect.
Mm.
Have you read anything about that?
Not for, not recently, no. So maybe you could bust me. Yeah,
Well, maybe we could find it, but I know it's significant because I went through an injury once where I couldn't do any kickboxing or anything in the bag or anything for quite a while. And whenever I did come back from like 3 or 4 months off of that, it would be the first few days were fucking brutal. And it wasn't brutal at all. And it's because of regular sauna use. Sauna bathing can increase the production of EPO, a hormone that stimulates the production of red blood cells. This can improve endurance performance by increasing the amount of oxygen. Now, it says here's how plasma volume. When you sit in a sauna, you sweat, which comes from blood plasma. As your blood plasma level decreases,
it's similar to how they would detect or bioidentical testosterone hormones. Doesn't look like a endogenous signature. So different compounds, there's different ways to analyze. But in general, it's going to be either the molecular mass of it or something to that effect would be have a blatant difference between what you would make naturally endogenously versus exogenous origin, which is the way to make it in the lab. Does not necessarily look exactly the same. So even though it's EPO that you're injecting, it's actually like recombinant, aka made in the lab, and not like it's not like they're literally pulling EPO out of a guy and then giving it to you. It's like grown in the lab essentially.
Right, right. That was one of the things that Jeff Nowitzki actually said could be an issue, is that it is possible, at least theoretically, to take testosterone from animals.
Yeah.
So find a mammal-based testosterone instead of getting it from. So they create it from wild yams, right?
Yeah.
So wild yams from Mexico, apparently, where they get all the testosterone that when you buy testosterone cypionate or whatever.
And soy.
Yeah, soy.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Yeah, they use soy to like the phyto, some of the compounds in the soy as well as yams look similar molecularly to uh, the cholesterol that would get basically enzymatically converted to testosterone. So you can just manipulate that slightly to have like a highly reproducible at scale for low cost way to make hormones. That's how testosterone.
Oh, that's interesting because soy is always associated with like soy boys. Yeah, it's associated with high estrogen levels.
Yeah, I think the two primary ways they synthesize testosterone now is soy.
So Nowitzki was saying that, with at least in theory, a really good scientist could actually extract it from animals, and then it would be impossible to differentiate.
Yeah, I think maybe the first time I came on, we talked about the carbon isotope ratio testing and having a CIO approved testosterone formulation. Exactly for doing that, and I did dig into it after we talked about it a bit more. And it does seem like there's strong evidence that suggests they're aware of it and are trying to find new ways to define even the carbon isotope ratio as well. Now they're looking at like hydrogen ratios because it's more minute and specific apparently, as opposed to the carbon content. They've seen suspicious testosterone formulations that look similar to endogenous carbon isotope signatures. And your diet, even what you ingest, can change what your signature is too. If they have to use as like a reference, they use, for example, from your urine, they'll find some other compound that is like upstream from testosterone, for example, and they will use that as a benchmark of like this is what your signature is of the carbon content of sex hormones. And then if your testosterone has a different carbon isotope ratio than this, they know that okay, however you got this in your body is different than the upstream hormone. Through that, we can infer that it's probably of exogenous origin. But if the exogenous origin one looks like the upstream hormones, you would never be able to tell.
So it's possible if you were sophisticated enough to make the exogenous look like the upstream,
Yeah,
even though you rejected it.
yeah. If you had like animal grade testosterone or cholesterol, even from like a medical grade, compound facility or something, like you could probably react with that and create like CIR testosterone.
God, it seems like it'd be hard to keep that under wraps for very long.
Maybe, yeah, but it's like the access to lab equipment and high level testing is not as the barrier is a lot lower than it used to be for sure. I even have heard people paying off a lot of labs to get like testing them. So, yeah, so they could like assess where they stand in terms of like some of the testing that they would do to see if they pump or not.
Is that legal?
No.
So they bribe WADA? They said allegedly.
There's water accredited labs, not just in the States, but like in other countries where they get more corrupt and you can, persuade them to test your samples.
So you send your piss to Guatemala somewhere.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, if you do enough homework, you can, develop a biological passport internally with your own team. Know you're bulletproof rather than just guessing.
Yeah. Well, there was some concern with this. It wasn't positive. And one of the concerns was that he was testing himself. He had gotten tested like a number of times, which generally you don't do.
Yeah, why was that recorded though? Like, did they have his medical records? Because you could just like pay for blood tests and get a urine analysis.
I might be speaking out of turn. I might be speaking out of school here. I don't remember. I don't remember the thing, but I remember someone who knows things. I'm kind of on the inside. So someone who knows things on the inside told me too. He got tested like 20 fucking times or something crazy like that during camp.
Oh, he was for sure.
Well, he's also pissed hot. This is what he fought Mark Hunt, and there's a giant lawsuit involved right now.
Oh,
yeah, I don't know if that lawsuit has been, if it's still ongoing or what the deal was, but Mark Hunt was furious.
Yeah.
When you look at the guy, I mean, he was like 39 years old, 300 pounds, cutting down to 265. He's fucking huge, man.
Yeah, what's even more interesting too is the storage of samples. A lot of sports don't actually do it. So with Olympic testing, oftentimes the positive test results come retroactively to years in the past. So once they refine the testing, actually are able to detect, long-term metabolites of furanabol or something of that nature. But in a lot of sports, especially in the U.S. for like traditional professional sports, you're not storing urine typically.
Right.
So if you have more refined testing get developed, oftentimes there's no way to actually penalize an athlete who was ahead of the testing curve at the time.
Right.
And at least from what I've seen, there's a really good paper. One of the guys I know who's on the inside on this, his name is Alex. He has excellent information and studies on this stuff. He did a paper basically outlined how I think 75% of the medalists were tested positive in the Olympics at the Summer Olympic Games for the past, like a full decade. It was like 75% of them tested years later, not at the actual time of winning the medal. So if they're only being pumped, 3 out of 4 people are getting pumped retroactively over a half decade later or more, based on advancements in testing, you can just imagine how many sports are getting away with passing testing, given that retroactively they're not being tested at all. So it's like if you're ahead of the curve now, there are a lot of sports where as long as you pass the test now, even if what you took had a more refined assay developed, 5 years from now, you're not going to go get your sample and retry it.
Right. That makes sense. But wasn't there a famous Russian wrestler? He was popped because they went back and looked at his old stuff. Like once they developed new testing protocols.
Was it an Olympic athlete?
Yeah.
That's why, because Olympic Games they started storing samples 2004. So there are probably some sports that store, but the majority don't. And it's like, you could say it's corruption, or you could say it's, people the sport trying to cover it up. But I think sometimes it's just like budget constraints too, because it's like you still have to be a profitable enterprise.
Right.
I don't know how much you can, scrutinize the economics and something like that.
You're also managing at scale, right? Like how many athletes are you dealing with?
Yeah.
How much time do you have to go back? Review all the different urine samples and
No, but it's just crazy because it highly suggests that in a lot of sports, as long as you're ahead of the curve, you're probably good.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, you have to actually beat the test now, which is more and more rigorous. At least historically, what we've seen is the testing usually lags behind the methods that are being developed to get around it.
Is there anything right now that is not being tested for that you think is effective?
Um, yeah, like in general, the most effective stuff is going to be bioidenticals, which are being tested for, but it's like at the scale, it's kind of up for debate because sometimes they don't test at all. Like you said, they were barely doing adequate in-depth testing for bioidenticals, WBO testing, or HGH testing. So I would say those are probably the go-tos, like EPO especially, and HGH. There are other compounds that I think some people think they can get away with that some people do, some people don't. One called prime Tazidine. There was some like tennis player who just popped like a week ago or something. It's like the entire Olympic team got popped for a few years back. Yeah, it was like 23 Chinese swimmers before the Tokyo Olympics got popped using this thing, and then they claimed it was like food contamination or something. And they were like, "Oh, I guess that's what happened." And then a bunch of those, two of those athletes won medals in the recent Paris Olympics, and 11 of them were allowed to compete still.
What does it do?
It shifts your efficiency of fuel utilization. So basically, in general, to create ATP, your body would oxidize fatty acids as well as glucose. And in endurance events, which is heavily oxygen sapping, if you can shift, which is what this drug does, it inhibits a process by which glucose and fatty acids, which is a less oxygen intensive process. You can basically conserve oxygen proportional to the amount of ATP you're producing. So in an endurance event, if you can have more oxygen for less cost internally, then it's highly performance enhancing. Or it should be, it's kind of speculative as to if it's actually performance enhancing, but it's kind of a weird coincidence how many people have popped for this drug. The Russian Olympics, the only people who didn't pop were the figure skaters.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a Russian figure skater who was 15 who was on the same angina medication.
Well, that kind of makes sense, right? Because one thing you would want is more oxygen and endurance when you're figure skating. It's pretty cardio intensive. You're spinning around and flying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
But they said that steroids, they found that like gross motor skills. You're like, he's so loud, dude. You nudge him, keep him from fucking snoring for him. Things along those lines. Like it was after steroids, it stronger as a figure skater, but it didn't advance. But that was Grigory, whatever his name was, from Icarus.
Yeah, and like I could see, obviously the compound selection will differ greatly depending on what sport it does. Some sports where being heavier is going to be problematic,
Right?
And you might want something that could enhance your cognitive capacity or whatever it might be, or like slow down your heart rate, for example, for archery or different applications for sure.
Like beta blockers.
Yeah, like for archery, for example, things like propanol, highly effective, as well as for public speaking. Yeah, publicly, I think there's like famous pianists who use this drug too.
Yeah. He's dropping that anxiety response.
Yeah, and if it crosses the blood-brain barrier, like propanol, it actually calms you down very significantly. It's not just about lowering the heart rate; it de-stresses you, like the anxiety.
Wow.
You never tried it?
No.
For archery? I'm
No.
wondering if it was.
I thought about doing it once. I even asked my doctor about it. He can get it for me, but I was like, geez. Like half of the bow hunting thing is about being able to keep your shit together. And if you can just do it, like if I could just shoot at a deer the way I'd shoot at a target, I don't think it would be the same.
Yeah, fair enough.
It's like part of it is
You're
like,
a purist.
yeah, in that regard. This part of it is the discipline of managing the mind.
Yeah.
That's what I like about it.
Mm.
I like that it's hard to do. I
Yeah.
don't want it to be easier. You know, it's fucking hard to do. And that's literally why I like it. Like if I could take a drug that would make it easier to do, I don't think I would like it. I'm very effective right now. I'm real successful at bow hunting, you know, relatively. So like like I go to a lot of really great places to hunt because I have money. I'm fortunate, but relatively speaking, bow hunting is not a successful endeavor. It's like maybe 10% of the hunts, like the people get tags, maybe probably less in most places.
Hmm.
Actually, harvesting that.
How often do you do it?
I do it twice a year. I go on a big elk hunt, and I do like a bunch of pig hunts and stuff like that. In between that, maybe one deer hunt.
And it's like, how intensive of a prep is it? And, like the whole process of doing the trip is a like multi-day thing.
Yeah, I go for like a week. The really intensive. I was going to tell you about this too, because I actually fucked my body up getting ready for this one. So when hunting season approaches, for like 3 months out of hunting season, I ramp up all my cardio and all my my archery. So I practice in my backyard. I practice archery. I'm shooting at 85 yards. I shoot an 84-pound bow, and I might shoot 100 times a day. So I'm pulling 80 pounds, 84 pounds, 100 times in a day, and I'm doing it day after day after day after day. I did it 5 days a week. So I was developing like severe pain in my lower back on my right side that led to like sciatica. And I was also developing some severe neck pain on my right side. So it's really an unbalanced thing, right? Because I really should draw something back with I should probably like at least draw back my bow with my left hand as many times as I draw back with my right, but I don't. So you draw back. So I'm pulling, it's 84 pounds to pull it back. It's at least in the beginning of the cycle, and then the cans rotate over and it significantly lowers. Like the holding weight is, I think my holding weight is like 20%, 20 or 25% of the actual weight of the bow. But what happens is, as you're pulling back and you lock it in place, the way archery works is you want to what's called pull at the wall, right? So where the string hits the end where it can't pull anymore on a compound bow, I'm pulling hard against that wall, so I'm steady, right? And then I'm trying to relax this shoulder and pull, and I'm stabilizing everything with this lower back, with my lower back muscle. So on my right side, it was just getting locked up, like painful. It's stiff, it's sore, it hurt even when I walk, and I was just I would do it for hours, 3 hours a day, just out. You know, and I just developed a real problem to the point where, like, when I was the last trip when I was going up hills, my hips were getting numb, like my glutes weren't firing. I was getting sciatic pain. It was pretty bad. So I knew after hunting season was over, I was going to have to address it. So I got some stem cell shots, which definitely helped. I started doing a lot of stretching, no archery for a couple months, a lot of like hard foam. Like I have a from elite flexibility to make like a PVC roller with like a very thin layer, so it's very hard. And I was doing a lot of rolling in the sauna, cold plunge, sauna, stretching, and it was getting a little better slowly, but it was brutal. Like it was taking a long time to recover. And then I started doing this thing called new fit. And what new fit is electrical muscular stimulation while you're going through the exercise routine. And so they slap these electro pads all over your muscles and fully contract you. And then you go through exercises while you're doing them. And it's like significantly increased my rehabilitation. I've only been doing it for a few weeks too. I've only been doing it for like 3 weeks. All my back pain's gone. Mobility's back. No more sciatica. No issues at all. And everything is like much looser. It's like coming back.
So do you find that more effective than stem cells?
No, I think it's the combination of things. So it's very hard to tell like what is actually working. But when you add one thing and then also you get a significant response, I'm assuming that this new fit thing is having at least responsible for. I mean, there's some sort of synergistic effect, right? Because I'm using peptides. I got this, like I said, I got stem cells shot into it. So it's like and it takes a while for the stem cells to take place. I'm sure that's part of it. But then this new fit thing's pretty significant. So I've been doing that quite a lot. I've been doing that 4 days a week. And it's legit, man. It's really legit. I know Mike Tyson was using that when he was preparing for the fight with Jake Paul. So I know a lot of other athletes use it. A lot of people use it for rehabilitation. It's like it really reduces the amount of time they get to recover from like surgery and injuries and stuff like that.
What else are you using now as part of your?
Nothing new. Nothing new. Still BPC 157, TV 500. You know, iPamorelin and stuff like that. Like the same stuff that I've always used before. This is the only thing that I've done that's really new. This new fit. Have you ever seen it before?
No.
Because like I said, Tyson was using it.
So it's no more time intensive because it's during training.
So what you're doing is so I'm doing it for rehabilitation. So this is what it looks like. So they slap these electrodes to you, so your muscles are just like locked up, depending on how much you can tolerate. You know, so clamp that fucker up. And when you're doing it, your muscles are like completely flexed through the whole thing. It's like it's kind of painful. And then while you're doing that, you're going through all these different exercises.
Okay, so like rehabilitative type exercises as opposed to the actual working that you can do.
For me, what I'm doing is rehabilitative, but other people do it for hypertrophy. And bodybuilding, you're doing to like say if you got like trap issues, like you don't want you need to like have one area where you want to improve. They're slapping it to that area and then doing all these exercises.
And there is an entrepreneur that I'm friends with asked me what I thought about it as like a replacement for exercise.
Just a replacement.
It was like it's like a rich person question. Like, how do I not go to the gym and still go to the gym?
There was a place in Boston when I lived there in the 80s that had that. I forget what it was called, but you would basically go there, and their claim was they would get you, you have a six pack, you get jacked, and all you have to do is lay there. Lay there, they put these electrodes on you, just.
Ever seen those like ancient like belly shaking things for like women to lift bodies?
Like back in the 40s, it's just sit there shaking back and forth.
No, I'm sure it's more effective than that, obviously. Lifted nothing, but I don't think it's a replacement. And I would imagine, I would speculate that the time it would take to stimulate yourself, if it's for hypertrophy, if you just worked out more, you'd probably get better results.
It's the idea is that it's enhancing you past what you would normally get because you're in this very unique state of constant contraction. So there's no contract, relax, contract, relax. You are just contracted. You just, and then you're going through all these exercises. So you have to kind of force your way through the exercises while you're contracted. It's kind of difficult.
I think if you're injured, it probably has a lot of liability. It would be highly suspect of it being like a guy trying to break a plateau with a veteran.
Right. Yeah, I would agree.
And no bodybuilders I know attribute any success to something like this.
Right. Well, this guy was telling me that some bodybuilders use the target areas that they like have having difficulty, like maybe your calves. Like people have a difficult time growing calf muscles.
Most biggest nuisance of the bodybuilder genetically.
It's calf. Look at John Jones. That's his thing. Like one of the best kickers in the sport. No calves. They're like non-existent.
Yeah, it's so genetically predetermined, seemingly, that you'll have guys who are top Olympia caliber bodybuilders, and if they haven't had calves for their whole career, they don't suddenly develop them, even though they obviously know how to train. And people like learn how to train. It's like, this is my job. Do you think I don't know how to do a fucking calf raise?
But they just won't grow.
Like proportionally so, they lag behind significantly, and it's pretty obvious when somebody has a lagging body part when they're on stage. But it is like a very, very difficult and stuff.
Well, especially for performance, you
Mm.
know, like you certainly need strong calf muscles for performance. You can make them stronger. They just don't necessarily get aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah, there's definitely ways to optimally train them that maybe not everyone does, but in general, like it seems like if they're lagging behind for you, it's pretty difficult to bring them up.
So, yeah, what a good body part.
Yeah, it's like one of the worst offenders.
Is there anything else like that? Any other body parts that are like notoriously difficult for training?
That's a good question. Uh, Probably, there's probably something that I'm not thinking of. I don't know. Neck maybe, but that's pretty easy to train. Actually, it's just not many people do it.
Well, neck, you got to be careful though. I use an iron neck, which I really believe in. It's like the only thing that I've ever. it's in my neck and not fucking. Whereas I think those other ones, like those things where you put like the leather helmet on, the chain.
Yeah.
I think that's an unusual movement for your neck, and I think you could probably get away with. I know a lot of wrestlers, including Mike Tyson, who fuck their neck up and neck this.
You see me F1 drivers workout routines?
No,
They pull up.
they would have to have dizzy necks.
Oh yeah, that's like what they do for their training mostly. Seemingly.
Lucas Games. Oh my god. Guys, it's happening.